Okay, this is, I think, day 9, and I've tried to record this 3 times now, and for some reason it's not working. So it's called Auntie Claus by Elise Primavera. The Kringle family lived high atop the luxurious Bing Cherry Hotel in New York City, and they loved Christmas. They kept a Christmas tree up all year round. Mr. Kringle was president of the renowned Jingle Bell Bell Company. Mrs. Kringle owned the fabulous Mistletoe to Nail salon over on 56th and 5th. They even named their young son after you-know-who. So there she is. This is her home at the Bing Cherry Hotel. Sophie and her little brother had everything, but if you asked, was it enough? No, they would say. Was it enough to have their own private soda fountain? No. Would they shake their heads, or they would shake their heads back and forth, or clothes and books galore? No, 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 they would scream. It had been suggested by their great aunt Auntie Claus, that maybe Sophie and her little brother were given too many presents. They can never have too many presents, sniffed Sophie. That's my motto. There's Auntie Claus. Oh, and who's the picture of? Yes, everyone in the Kringle family loved Christmas, but no one loved it more than Auntie Claus. Auntie Claus lived at the Bing as well, penthouse 25. After every afternoon, Sophie was summoned there for tea. Each day, Auntie Claus would instruct Sophie on a different topic. One day it might be Christmas trees. Always pick a nice full one, darling, with springy needles. Another day, decorating. You must drape the garland, darling, one strand at a time. You must never throw it on. After they finished, Auntie Claus would close with these words of wisdom. And darling, always remember my first and final rule. Whether it's birthdays, Christmas, or Halloween, it's far better to give than to receive. Sophie wondered about her great aunt a lot. She was so mysterious. Sophie thought, and this was true. There were many strange goings-on up in penthouse 25C. Most people considered Auntie Claus just another eccentric New Yorker, but Sophie knew that there was more to her than met the eye. For instance, what was the diamond key that always hung from a silver ribbon around her neck? Just a bit of costume jewelry, darling, her great aunt would say, quickly, and then quickly change the subject. Why did Auntie Claus leave every year right after Halloween and not return until Valentine's Day? Just a business trip, darling, and she'd change the subject again. Where does she go? Sophie wanted to know. Once again it was Halloween, and Auntie Claus announced, in 1 week I'm off on my annual business trip. What kind of a business trip are you going on anyway? Sophie asked. That, darling, is something for me to know and you to find out, Auntie Claus said with a twinkle in her eye. And that was exactly what Sophie intended to do. This year I have a plan. I'll stow away. Sophie had made up her mind. Oh. And as she was leaving, Sophie said, I'm going on a business trip with Auntie Claus. Marvelous, darling. Be home in time for Christmas. There's a good girl, said her mother. Do take your mittens, said her father. I'm going too, said her little brother. Oh, no, you're not, said Sophie. Can if I want to, he said. Cannot, she said. Can too, he cried. Cannot, she yelled. Wah! Sophie could hear his ear-splitting scream start to fade as she ran out the door. Sophie tiptoed, there we go, to Auntie Claus's apartment. There were many boxes and trunks waiting to go. Choosing the largest, Sophie pushed aside the capes and furs and wriggled inside. Quietly, She made a little peephole in the cardboard so she could see everything that was going on. See her right there? Auntie Claus entered the room. She removed the diamond key that hung from the ribbon around her neck. Next, she placed the key into the lock of her old elevator. The door slid open. The boxes and trunks were loaded. The door slid shut. Turn this whole page is sideways. Whoops. Vroom, the elevator shot up in the air and out into space. They were going up, up, up. Minutes and hour passed and they were still going up. Sophie could feel it getting colder and colder. From her peephole, she could see the stars zipping by. Or was that snow? We can't possibly still be in New York, she thought. The elevator landed with a thunk, tipping over Sophie's box. She could no longer see, but she thought she heard cheers. The sound soon faded until all became completely silent. Thinking it safe, she climbed out of the box. "Where am I?" Sophie whispered. "You must be the new elf," the little man said. "That's it," said Sophie. "I'm the new elf. Who are you?" "I'm Mr. Pudding," he said. Oh dear, you're in violation of elf rule number 3. "What do you mean?" asked Sophie indignantly. He pulled a worn green and red book from his pocket. On the cover it read, "Elf Rules and Vital Information." He pointed to the section marked Dress Code. Sophie read out loud, "Always look neat, always look snappy. A well-dressed elf always feels happy. Follow me," he said, and trotted off down into the darkness. "Where are we going?" shouted Sophie. "Hurry, hurry," Mr. Pudding called over his shoulder. "Only 48 days left." Mr. Pudding put Sophie right to work in the mailroom. It seemed to her a good place, as good of a place as any to begin her search. Where was Auntie Claus, and what was she doing here? For days Sophie lived among the elves and did her best to blend in. She slept in a cot in the elf dormitory. She ate her meals in the cafeteria. No one suspected. Every day Mr. Pudding appeared. "Hello, Elf Sophie." "Settling in?" he asked. "The uniform is itchy. The hours are long," said Sophie. "This is hard work." Oh dear, said Mr. Pudding. He pulled the old green and red book from his pocket. "Elf rule number 2, Mr. Pudding recited. An elf's work is never done, but hard work never hurt anyone." Rules schmools, thought Sophie. Okay, I'm going to stop here and make a second half of the book.